All right.
All
So,
right.
welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our first episode of a new series we're trying that I am calling for now the Mike and Muha Indie Bucket, where we just take a look at whatever indie movie we feel like watching that day and its own title.
Oh, oh, your audio totally cut out for me for a second.
Oh, okay. I think the audience got the gist. The
All right.
So, and we decided, like, you texted me like at 11 p.m. tonight. It's like, hey, do you want to watch a movie? And I said, yeah. What movie?
I, d- I didn't even do that. Oh, your
uh,
audio keeps on cutting out. Are you doing it on the blue microphone?
yeah, that's right there. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Maybe it's just me. Maybe your bandwidth. Anyway, um,
So yeah, I was like, oh, what about
so
Mandy? And he said, yeah, sure. So this time it was my suggestion. Uh,
well, technically, I mean, we made the list together and we were just picking from the list. This has been on my list for a while.
uh,
Um,
I feel like you should go first because I feel like you had like a transcendental experience with this one.
it's rare that you see a movie that just gives no fucks and commits 100% to its own vision, even
Yeah.
if that involves like trippy lighting and stuff. I was reminded of like classic Dario Argento movies like Suspiria. Um, but this is not a complex movie. This has a very straightforward concept that calls back to, classic horror movies and movies and things like that. And I'm not gonna lie, this was 100% like this was a 10 out of 10 for me. This is this is like truly an amazing experience. Normally we watch these movies while it's just on a video call with each other, and like
Yeah.
30 minutes into it, I was just like, yeah, man, I'm just going to call you after the movie. I need to be in this. And um, I was completely swept away by this movie's trippy, psychedelic, like soundtrack and color palette and video effects and just the combination of all these elements down to the cinematography. Like everything in this movie very purposely combines to make for a really trippy experience, and,
Mm-hmm.
and definitely comes from somebody who knows their classic horror. um I loved every bit of this movie. Everything. Everything. I loved it. Down to the fact that we were joking about this early on in the movie, how like everyone in this movie seems to have gone to the Nicolas Cage School of Acting.
Yep.
And that carries through. That carries
Yep.
through. That is consistent through to the end of the movie. There's very much lines in this movie, even later in the movie when it's super dark and serious, that are clearly meant to be funny and hilarious. And they land. And it's so surreal to be in these dark, fucked up moments and just have these like funny bits just pop up and they work.
Like just
I
he just goes, "I'll suck your dick, man."
just or or you cut my shirt.
Oh
Like,
yeah, that was another good one. Or just out
oh,
of nowhere,
just
cheese goblin.
yeah, no, the cheese dot commercial was amazing. Um, and it happens in like the darkest, saddest moment of the movie. Like, it's such a weird juxtaposition, and but it works. It works. I loved everything about this movie. It took its time setting up what it wanted to do, down to like the title card of the movie popping up an hour and 15 minutes into the movie, where it's like, all right, now it starts. And it's this very clear division between like the two parts of the movie. And it's such an interesting thing to do. Like, I'd forgotten there was no title card up to that point. And then it pops up and I'm like, oh shit. Like, it's such a weird thing to do, but it worked. Like,
I mean, that was one of many weird things we chose to do.
This movie did a lot of weird shit, and I loved all of it. I have a lot of respect for someone who has the dedication to make a movie that's this, like, just bizarre, but also focused. This movie has incredible focus.
It does.
From all components. Like, the director, the sound design, the score. That's another thing. The music
great.
The music is done by one of my favorite modern composers who sadly died in 2018. His last album, Orphe, is one of my favorite neoclassical works. His name is Johan Johansson, and he also did the score for like Sicario and Arrival. And this is very different, but it's still really great. It's really great, full of organs and like dark, distorted guitars and like weird like doom rock elements. I fucking loved this movie so much.
I think the best way I describe it for me is that it's like, if a Meatloaf cover made love to a revenge thriller while high on LSD, you get Mandy.
Yeah, no, that's another thing about it. It has a lot of I mentioned this early on, where it's weird that it's a movie that takes place in the 80s but looks like a 70s movie in terms of like film grain and the color palette and all that stuff. But it also clearly has influence from the the heavy metal era of
big time
animation.
Big time. Yeah, like that's very
moments in the movie. Yeah, there's 3 moments in the movie where that stuff pops up, and there are different visual flares throughout that harken back to that style of like weird cosmic demonic shit. Like, it's cool. It's cool.
Like, it's one of those movies, like, I wasn't high while watching it, but I felt high to the point where I was like, I'm not entirely sure what they're saying or what's happening, but I'm enjoying the ride.
Yeah. No,
that's kind of one of the mindsets.
There's a thread through this movie. Yeah, there's definitely a thread through this movie about, like, this sort of Charles Manson-esque style, doing heavy drugs and like getting into cult shit kind of vibe. Surrounding that central group, and they do a real good job on the LSD simulation stuff. Like, not quite on the level of, say, like how Midsummer did with mushroom style visual effects, but they use color and pacing and like cadence of speech, like all kinds of stuff, just to really just make you feel disoriented. And this is kind of where the Nicolas Cage school of acting comes in, because it's so bizarre, and it has this, it's funny, it can be so funny, but at the same time, the fact that everyone's doing it kind of makes for this really weird, surreal tone to the movie, where some of the characters, like, it comes through as being they're high on LSD and they're fucking psychotic. Like, it works.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I would posit somehow in this movie full of this kind of acting, Nicolas Cage delivers some of his best, most like poignant, realistic acting moments that I've seen in a while.
Yeah, I will actually agree with that. Like, there was one scene in particular where I was like, is this Nicolas? Is this like bizarre or brilliant? And I can't really tell. Is the vodka scene when he's in the bathroom?
Yeah, I was gonna say the bathroom scene. I was like, damn, you can feel this. It
Yeah.
makes sense in this context. Like this kind of over the top shit. In this context, it makes sense and it works.
Yep.
And
Yep.
that honestly, that's one of the most impressive things about this movie to me. That it managed to the baseline normal is not only Nicolas Cage doing his thing, but is also it makes sense
Yep.
in the context of the movie. Like,
And like long-time viewers will know I'm a big fan of the Cage Rage, and I'm always disappointed in any movie he's in where I don't get a little Cage Rage. And like, okay, I
yeah, we
know
got
it's
it.
coming. I can't. I know it's coming. I've seen the screenshots. I know it's happened. And when it does, I was like, oh, I was still not prepared.
Yeah. Oh
Because
man.
that's right. I was like, oh my god, he just made a Mortal Kombat axe. I am in.
Yes. Oh, that was so good. Um, I definitely want a spoiler barrier because I want to like gush about some of the cool shit in this
Like
movie.
I'm keeping it as
But
vague as possible, but like things you would have seen,
yeah,
like.
no, absolutely.
But man, that was a ride to have at 2 a.m.
Yeah, you had a good time.
I enjoyed myself. I deeply enjoyed myself.
Good shit. Good
Oh,
shit. Yeah. No, this is 100% like I have no qualms about this.
I
Like
mean, I
you know
remember.
me, I like an interesting movie, and this was interesting and entertaining and really well executed and moody and dark and funny and badass and violent in awesome ways. And dude, I 10 out of 10. I can't give this anything less.
I
I
don't know
I
if I would
haven't seen a
go
movie like
that
this.
high, but I also can't really think of anything wrong with it because this one's it has such a clear identity, and
Yeah.
it knows exactly what it is, and it's like I can't fault it for that. Like I remember watching, it was like this is 100% Muha's shit, and I look over you, and you just have this Cheshire shit-eating grin from like ear to
I was just sitting for most of the movie,
ear.
just.
And I think
Oh man,
5 minutes before you're like, dude, I'm gonna call you back.
dude, shit like this is. It reminds me why I love movies so fucking much, because people will just do their thing sometimes, and when they get out of the whole, when you get out of the fucking like the mainstream Hollywood machine, and because clearly this was made somewhere else.
Oh yeah,
This
I think I
this
like
is
the way
absolutely.
it definitely happened somewhere else.
Yeah. And like I love it when movies like this get that level of control um from the director. And yeah, this was executed amazingly. There was clearly no studio interference with
Oh
this, so to
no!
speak.
Granted, I would have loved to have seen their reaction watching this movie. It's like, so we have
Oh,
some
see my
notes.
reactions. Oh man, you just yeah. Let's talk about some moments, shall we?
All right,
Spoiler,
spoiler warning
spoiler
from here on out.
territory. All
Yes,
right,
spoiler territory.
let's do
Let's
it.
do it. So
Oh
one thing
man,
I like, the one part that took me out of the moment for the movie for a second was when I was looking at the main villain. It's particularly that scene where they have like the hallucinatory scene where they intermit like Mandy's face on top of his face for a bit there,
yeah, that was
kind of
trippy.
randomly. And I was looking, I was like, wait a minute, that's Thomas Wayne. What the fuck happened there?
Wait, what?
It's Thomas Wayne from Batman Begins. I checked it. It's him.
No shit. That's amazing.
I was like,
Uh,
dude, Bruce Wayne, like, is this how Bruce Wayne was conceived? Just a weird LSD trip beforehand.
I'm blown away that you even remember that. I do not remember much about Batman Begins. Um, oh man, okay.
All
So
right, go, gush, dude, gush, do it.
this one of my favorite moments in this movie is the part with the chainsaw
Yeah.
where he just starts pulling it out from behind the rock, and you're like, what? Like, what was your reaction to that moment? Because mine was just like, oh, like
Like
just increasingly.
The funny part is, I think I know you well enough that I practically heard you like 2 cities over. Like I could just hear you going, "Oh, ooh."
Yes, yes.
Yes. I think my reaction was like, "Oh, that's a longer chainsaw." That's where my mind was at that point.
Oh
Like it was
man.
at that point, I was like, you know, I'm melted in. I'm just along for the ride. I'm not gonna give this a lot of critical thought.
Oh yeah, no, there's definitely a yeah. You gotta just let it do its thing.
You gotta give into
And
it. You gotta give into it.
yeah,
And
when
yeah,
it
it
gets
was great.
when it gets to the point where it's just like, all right, we've done all the setup that was powerful and intense. Let's get to the crazy shit, and it goes all in on the crazy shit.
Yep.
And like,
Down to like, I did not expect Nicolas Cage to reprise Ghost Rider for a third time.
yeah, and have it work better than either of the Ghost Rider
Yep.
movies.
Although I still have a soft spot for the second one, as dumb as it is.
Dude, if this guy directed a Ghost Rider movie,
Fuck
can you imagine?
yes.
That'd be
Fuck
amazing.
yes.
Holy shit. Oh man.
Make it the Cosmic Ghost Rider. Make it even weirder.
Yeah, right. Um so I really enjoyed the build up. I enjoyed that first hour 15 where it was building, the relationship with Mandy. It felt natural, it felt beautiful. Nicolas Cage felt like a normal dude
Yeah.
somehow. And
First time in like since
I
Las Vegas, maybe.
yeah, right. And there was just really beautiful scenery. And like I keep bringing up the cinematography, but it's a really well shot movie. And
Oh
it
yeah.
just looks really good. It looks
And there's just
really
some
good.
shots in the movie. They're just like, man, what was the thought process behind that? Because it's like after they run to like the chemist with the LSD and they let the tiger loose, and it just cuts to the
Yeah,
tiger
right.
and like this Technicolor background just roaring for no reason. You're like,
Yeah. It's just some heavy metal shit, man. Like it's a fucking like 80s metal album cover basically.
and then the
And it's like, all
ending,
right.
and then the ending, like the last shot of the movie, is like what Nicolas
Yeah.
Cage driving around. Like there's multiple planets and shit in the background. It's like he just like spawned an apocalypse.
Yeah, right. Well, the way I saw that was it was like the idea that what he went into was actually some kind of cosmic horror. Like that these guys with their LSD and everything had tapped into something that was beyond uh just crazy shit that you see. There was definitely because there are things that like when the chemist takes the LSD and then just knows where they are, like he looks up to
Oh
the
yeah.
light and guides him. Like he knows things he shouldn't know. And it's not just because like he senses his vibe, like he knows these things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Bad shit happened to him. Like and like that chamber that he goes into that's deep underground but has this pulsing light from above. Like it's
Oh yeah.
it's
Yeah. Yeah.
there are things in this movie that are definitely pointing towards these guys actually being in touch with some kind of greater crazy cosmic darkness. And when you realize what that goo is, that it's like highly concentrated doses of this bad LSD batch,
Mm-hmm.
and Nick Cage takes like just a dab on his tongue, and he goes, "Whoa!" And he sees shit that is like portending the future. Like it tells
Oh
him
yeah.
where to go with the tower and everything. Um, but also awesome visuals.
Oh yeah.
But the fact that earlier in the movie you saw one of those demonic biker guys just chug that shit.
Oh yeah. I was
Like,
thinking that too.
yeah, there's something more going on with this movie than just your standard like revenge flick. And when it gets to that point where he's driving away, I I think that was just meant to be a clear indication that yes, he basically journeyed into an actual like otherworldly hellscape kind of deal.
I'm willing to accept that.
Yeah, it's pretty minimalistic in how it does it for the most part, but in the end, I think that's where they were going with it.
Yeah, I'm willing to accept that at this point. I'm like, you know what? I believe it. It's within the realm of possibilities. I mean, I'm sure you could definitely make a lot of analytical choices about like the way the color shifts and when, and go like do like a deep dive if you really want to go that deep into this movie. That being said, if you just kind of want to lean back and just enjoy the ride, you can absolutely do that too.
I'm pretty sure that like the color choices are meant to just indicate like when some crazy shit is happening, like maybe the 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 barrier between the planes is thinner or some shit. Like that weird like lightning electric strobe that was happening when the Cenobite things first come into the house.
Yeah.
Like it was flashing blue and shit. Like stuff like that. But I also think that it's just used to set a tone. And
I can see that.
I
think
can just
there's some
appreciate
places
that.
where it's very deliberate, though, which I'm kind of wondering if it was meant to be like deeper symbolism there. The scene I'm thinking of in particular is like towards the end when he's having like the flashbacks to when he met Mandy in the bar, and the light kind of shifts from red to blue. I'm just kind of wondering, like, okay, is that supposed to mean something? Because before then it's been mostly red. So I'm thinking it's some kind of deliberate choice there.
There's also the other colors that come in on that scene. Like she herself is the embodiment of that cosmicness.
Okay,
like the whole idea of being that in love and just that feeling you get of just being in that zone with someone, and that's how in love he was with her. And I don't know, like I agree that the use of color in this movie is very deliberate, and I think it's just meant to evoke a feeling.
Oh yeah,
but I do think that I do think those feelings are meant to mean something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I'm right there. I completely agree. It's more like what feeling is it trying to convey and in what context. I think that's what's interesting to me. Not that it's really important in the grand scheme of things to really enjoy the film.
Yeah. But if you want to go,
I don't know how cheap this movie really is. I'm sure you can get a lot of mean out if you've really looked into it.
If you want to go full film nerd on this movie, I think you totally can.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And this actually makes me kind of excited because there's another movie that I've been meaning to watch for a very long time. It's been brought up in multiple lists that were, recommending just really unique, interesting, weird horror movies. And it's this is this director's second movie. His first movie is this other movie called Beyond the Black Rainbow. And I've been meaning to watch that for years. And apparently that was his debut feature. So geez. I 100% want to get on that at some point because I am sold. I fucking loved this movie.
I can't really think of stuff right now. Like I don't think I share your just like unapologetic adoration of this film. But that being said, I did have a really good time having this, watching this, and I can't think of like any major issues I had with it, other than I gave myself to the movie and it gave back. So that's all I can really ask.
Once again, this movie is an experience.
Yes, and it's like it almost kind of defies objectivity in that way. Like it kind of
it does.
You kind of can't criticize it because it's not working on objective rules.
All you can really say is like, I didn't like this kind of thing, or it's just not my kind of thing. But you can't say it's not good at what it's doing.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. So it's like, and even then, you're not in a mind space where you can really think about this movie that objectively. At least not on first viewing.
Yeah.
On subsequent viewings, maybe, but on the first viewing, you're just absorbing the experience and everything that's going on in it, and then it's like, either you're gonna like it or you're not, and there's no like, I can't think of any really valid criticisms one way or another.
All right.
Like I said, I had a good ride, and I got my cage raised, so I'm happy. He stabbed in a bunch of people.
Oh God, the violence in this was so good. It was it was such good violence. Like the gore was great where it needed to be. It was very gratifying. Man,
So,
yeah, I'm good. I've said what I need to.
yeah, I think I'm good too. So, yeah, that was our first indie movie to watch. Now we have a huge long list of other ones to check out.
Yeah, we're not restricted by new releases now. We can just do whatever we want. And I've
basically,
got some weird ones for you. Ha
I know that was basically the inspiration for this. Cause I remember I came over to your apartment the other day and you just like started just passing me DVDs, like all the weird shit you found over the years. It was like, we need an excuse to talk about these. I have an idea.
Oh man. Well, yeah. We'll definitely have more of these.
Yeah. So if you guys like this, make sure to give it a like, subscribe, do all that jazz. And if you have your own weird indie movies you want us to check out, throw out suggestions we can add to the list. Otherwise, we will talk about another indie movie whenever we are bored. So, thank you guys for watching.
All right, y'all.
See you later.